Have you ever made a choice so drastic that it changed the entire trajectory of your life? If you're curious about something that's been eating away at me for the past 16 years, keep reading. Comment closure. If you've ever wrestled with a decision you couldn't undo, asterisk. Asterisk or just ask me anything. I'm not hiding anymore. Asterisk. I disappeared the night before my wedding. No note, no explanation. Just gone. And after all this time, I'm still not sorry. My name's Alyssa, I'm 38 now. And yeah, I recently reached out to Gavin like nothing ever happened. Because, why shouldn't I? Me explain. Sometimes you just know deep in your bones that something isn't right. But no one tells you how loud the world gets when you try to listen to that quiet voice in your gut. That's exactly what it was like with Gavin and me. We met when I was 21 in college, at a time when I was barely steering my own life. My parents had practically chosen my major. They dictated my clothes, my schedule, my friends. Gavin showed up like this gentle escape route. Soft-spoken, dependable, with that calm, steady vibe that made people feel safe. First, I clung to that. He wasn't bad. Let me be clear about that. He was kind, polite. He held doors open and remembered my favorite tea. The kind of guy everyone says you should want. My parents adored him. My friends thought he was husband material. And me. I didn't feel much of anything. No spark. No butterflies. No ache when we were apart. Being with him was like slipping into a well-worn hoodie. Comfortable. Familiar. But it never lit me up. Still, I kept going through the motions. It was easier than confronting everyone's expectations. Gavin took the lead on everything. Planning weekends, choosing restaurants, even predicting our future. He'd say things like, when we're married, not if, like it was all set in stone. And I just smiled and nodded. Because that's what people pleasers do. My best friend Naomi was the only one who called it out. She saw through the pretty surface and asked the real questions. Do you actually want this? Or are you just afraid to say no? I didn't know how to answer. Then came the proposal. Gavin popped the question at a minor league baseball game. On the Jumbotron. I wish I were kidding. Thousands of strangers stared at me. Cameras. Cheering. My stomach flipped with panic. But I said yes. Because what else do you do when you're trapped in a performance? Later, when I told Gavin I didn't like public stuff like that, he just chuckled and said, it's a great story for our kids someday. Our kids, plural. Future planned. My opinion. Optional. Wedding planning was hell. Our mothers took over, treating me like a prop. When I gave input, they'd tilt their heads and say things like, oh sweetie, we already decided on that. Gavin always sided with them. They just want it to be perfect, he'd say. But perfect for who? People kept saying how lucky I was, how happy I must be. But I felt like a mannequin, dressed up, smiling, hollow. The night before the wedding, I was alone in my childhood bedroom, staring at the dress hanging on my closet. It looked more like a costume than something I wanted to wear. Gavin had called earlier, giddy about tomorrow. But I couldn't remember the last time anyone had asked me what I wanted. That's when Naomi called. She heard something in my voice and said quietly, you know you don't have to do this, right? You can just not. Until that moment, I didn't realize that not going through with it was even an option. I packed a bag while my parents slept. No note. Just left. Naomi was waiting in her car at the end of the street. We drove all night. For the first time in years I felt like I could breathe. We ended up in Austin, crashing with some of Naomi's friends. Kept my phone off for weeks. Because I knew what would happen when I turned it on. Calls. Tears. Blame. The questions I couldn't answer. Those first few weeks were a weird kind of peace. I didn't belong to anyone. I wasn't answering to expectations. But freedom is strange. It's not always soft and romantic. Sometimes it feels like falling with no safety net. Naomi was patient, but her roommates weren't. Money got tight. My presence became a burden. I bounced between couch surfing, dead-end jobs, and nights where I seriously wondered if I'd made the right decision. But every time I thought about marrying Gavin, I still felt this cold dread. That told me I'd made the right call, even if the fallout was messy. Then came the bad choices. Bad roommates, bad jobs, bad people. Started small, looking the other way. Then justifying things I never thought I'd get involved in. Before I knew it, I was arrested. One moment of desperation led to 3 years behind bars. And yeah, prison was rough. But marrying Gavin, living that lie, would have been worse. At least in prison, I understood why I was miserable. When I got out, I had nothing. No money. No reputation. Criminal record. People looked at me like I was dangerous, broken. I worked crap jobs. Slept in sketchy motels. Slowly, painfully, I started rebuilding. I got a cheap apartment. Found consistent work. Started therapy. I was finally becoming someone I could stand to look at in the mirror again. And then one night I thought about Gavin. Not because I missed him, but because I never gave him closure. He deserved better than that. So I looked him up. Social media made it easy. He looked good, healthy, stable. His life looked untouched by the chaos that followed me. I almost hated that. Still, I messaged him. Carefully, cautiously. Hey. It's been a long time. Would you be open to meeting for a quick coffee? To my surprise, he said yes. We met at a cafe in Phoenix. I arrived early, heart pounding. When I saw him, I nearly froze. He looked older, yes, but peaceful, like someone who never got thrown off track. He smiled when he saw me. Nervous but kind. We sat. Caught up. I told him most of it. About why I left, what came after. I left out some of the darker corners, but I was honest where it counted. He listened quietly. Then he said something I didn't expect. I'm not angry anymore. Just sad we didn't talk sooner. There was no bitterness in his voice. Just closure. We both needed that. He told me he eventually got married, had a daughter, and that he hoped I found peace too. And you know what? I think I'm starting to. So, if you've ever wondered whether it's worse to break someone's heart or betray your own, I can tell you from experience. Choosing yourself is hard. But it's the first real choice I ever made for me. And I don't regret it. Not even a little. Comment closure. If you've ever wrestled with a decision you couldn't undo. Asterisk or just ask me anything. I'm not hiding anymore. Asterisk.